Good job. Up, do it again. Good job, good job. Back up, do it again. Up, do it again. Good job, do it again. Good job, good job. So, what did wrestling teach me? Let's see, that's always a good question. I get asked that question a lot. I guess I talk about that one a lot. But truly, I think there's 4 things that the sport of wrestling taught me that I ultimately carried over to my business today, and it helped me build what I have, and it's taking us to where we're going ultimately. The first thing wrestling taught me easily was push the pace. I think there's 4 things I always kind of lean on when I talk about what it did for me. The first thing was push the pace. I remember this so vividly in my mind. My wrestling coaches in college, my teammates in college, the big message was always push the pace. It's something that they tell you constantly. You gotta keep your hands on your opponent. You gotta push them. You gotta run back to the center. You gotta keep the pressure on them. In business today, the truth of the matter is, instead of having a singlet on and a headgear and putting your hands on somebody, you're pushing the pace in a lot of different ways. You're returning calls. You're waking up early. You're getting everything done early. You're adding to what you need to do. Pushing the pace is a part of everything you do in life, from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. The second thing I think the sport of wrestling taught me was to have a short memory. Something I loved in wrestling, I can't say I loved it, this is something that losing taught me. When I was in a wrestling tournament and I would lose in the second or third round, hopefully not the first round, even though there were a couple tournaments I did. When I would lose, the truth of the matter is we had a match coming up in the wrestlebacks, or the consolation bracket that we would call it, in 45 minutes. So our coaches would always come up to us and say, you gotta have a short memory. Forget about that loss, put it behind you. You've gotta get ready for this next match. And the truth of the matter is, you could feel sad, you could feel depressed, you could feel down, you could feel sorry for yourself. Those are all feelings, by the way, that in business today, I think every person in sales or business or any capacity feels that on a daily basis. But in the sport of wrestling, you had 45 minutes. At the end of 45 minutes, it was done. It was behind you. You had to treat the next match as if you had won your last match. You had to have a short memory. Having a short memory is absolutely pivotal to being successful in anything in life today. The third thing that the sport of wrestling taught me ultimately was never quit. That was, again, something that my wrestling coaches in college especially, even my elementary school, junior high, high school, but especially college, was never quit, never give up. There's no such thing as being down or being defeated. I've said this before, I never looked at failure as fatal or defeat as final. If you're in a wrestling match and you're down by 10 points and there's a minute to go, you still have a minute that you could pull this thing out and you can win. Ultimately, it taught me to never quit. So that's something that you carry over to everything you do, and something that I've carried over to everything I do, and that's straight from the sport. The last thing I would tell you that wrestling taught me, a big thing of the 4, amongst God knows thousands of things, was that I can achieve anything I want. The truth of the matter is you get out of something what you put into it. Now another truth is that you don't always win. I used to come to practice early. I used to stay late. I used to put in the extra time. That alone did not ensure or guarantee or entitle me to victory. However, it put me into a better position to achieve success. And that's something that in business today, I apply to everything I do. I always ask myself this question, and this is a super, super important question. Is what I'm about to do now putting me into the best position possible to achieve success? Is this going to give me the best opportunity to be successful? Wrestling taught me that I can achieve anything, not to be entitled and not to be expected to have anybody hand it to me. But the truth of the matter is it taught me that I can achieve anything I can imagine. The only limitations we have are the limitations we place upon ourselves.